Chapter 9, Parker Elias. Back when Grandpa was alive, he and Grams ran the lunch counter at the bus station. I can still picture the luncheonette sign, which always looked like elect the noun to me. I don't remember much about Grandpa except that he used to tell me it was a $10 word, and I'd be able to read it just fine when I got older. We know how that worked out. Grams would stand me up in front of the candy counter, which seemed like it was a mile high, although that was just because I was small. And she'd say, "What'll it be, kiddo?" And I would pick out whatever I wanted. In those days, I didn't mind being kiddo because she definitely knew my real name. "This handsome fellow is my grandson Parker," she'd announce whenever regulars came in. You could tell by the way that she boomed it out that she was totally thrilled by the idea. I wondered if she knows that the guy who drives her every morning is the same little kid she used to brag about to her customers. It's not her fault when Grandpa died. She started forgetting a lot of stuff. But you'd think a grandson would be an exception to that, except a grandson who's supposed to be her favorite person, especially a grandson who's supposed to be her favorite in the whole world. Grams insists that the reason she can't get her act together is because she isn't a morning person. This from a lady who gets up at 4 a.m. So we'll be halfway to the senior center before I look down and notice that her shoes don't match, or that instead of her purse she brought half a loaf of Wonder Bread. There are those red, yellow, and blue polka dots smiling down at me, along with her name, which looks like Downer. Today, Mom's driving because Grams has her semi-annual conference with a social worker at the senior center. Mom calls it Meet the Teacher, since I guess it's a lot like a parent conference at school. "Speaking of which," she says to me, "how's 8th grade going? I understand you're in a different kind of program this year." I almost reply, "Yeah, the Unteachables," but that would be a good idea. The minute she got through with Graham's Meet the Teacher, she'd be stalking the middle school looking to meet my teacher. I picture my folks trying to hold a conversation with Ribbit, who never glances up from his crossword puzzle. Dad, especially, would have no patience for that. Fall is our busiest time on the farm, with so much harvesting still to do. So I tell her, it's going fine, like always. She casts me a doubtful look. Like always might not have been the best choice of words. Mom signs my report cards. She knows better than anyone what like always probably means. I add, our teacher has a lot of experience. He started out teaching Stegosaurus and pterodactyls before moving on to Unteachables. Dinosaurs had no problems being in class with a guy who did crossword puzzles all day. Mom looks like she has more questions, but luckily Grams is waiting outside her building. No mismatched clothes or missing socks. No rubber gasket from the coffee maker on her wrist instead of her medical alert bracelet. She's thrown a little to see me in the passenger seat instead of behind the wheel, so it takes some coaxing to get her into the truck. She has to sit on the hump between Mom and me since the pickup has no back seat. "Of all the cars you picked this one," she asked Mom, "you're crazy." "It's just for a couple of minutes," my mother promises. "Once we drop Parker at school, you'll have plenty of room." "I'm Parker," I put in quickly since Grams is looking around the car in confusion. She beams at me. "Hiya, kiddo. Want breakfast?" "No time. We're coming up on my stop." Mom pulls up in front of the school and I get out. She waves, "Have fun." Yeah, right, fun. That's the last word that comes to mind when I think of SCS 8. On the other hand, a sit down with Grams and the social worker won't be a party either. I'm probably getting the better deal. As the pickup roars off, I hear a crunching sound. A crushed vuvuzela lies in the pavement, the plastic busted by the weight of the truck. It seems like there are more of them around every day as we get closer to Spirit Week, and these are just leftovers from last year. The word is that Principal Vargas just placed this giant order of new ones for 2019. They're going to be bright yellow, our school color, and say "Go Go Golden Eagles" on one side. It doesn't make as much sense to me that you can get a detention for chewing gum, but blasting away on a horn as loud as an air raid siren is considered school spirit. Instead of being late like most other mornings, I've got the opposite problem. I'm early. The buses haven't started arriving yet. I wander down to room 117, but nobody's there. The kids of SCS 8 dribble in 10 seconds before the late bell, and at that, we're usually ahead of Mr. Kermit. The only signs of life are coming from the room next door, 115. Miss Fountain's in her classroom rearranging the Velcro smiley faces on her job boards. There's already a Hershey Kiss sitting in the middle of each desk. You know what Mr. Kermit gives us every morning? Nothing. If you don't count the dirty looks. She spots me standing in the morning. Good morning, Parker. You're early today. Come on in. Have a kiss. I stare at her for a long time before I realize she's talking about the candy. Thanks. The chocolate's sweet in my mouth. When you spend all your time in SCS 8, you almost forget there's another way to live. My eyes find the lizard terrarium. Hey, I say suddenly. Vladimir's back. She beams. Mr. Kermit found him for me. Really? That doesn't sound like Ribbit. I know the one who wouldn't give any... I'm sorry. That doesn't sound like anyone I know. The one who wouldn't give anybody the skin off a grape. Suddenly I experienced the most irresistible desire to drop to the floor and sit cross-legged on the taped circle. I know Miss Fountain's teaching style is too babyish for our age, but circle time that day might have been the most uncomfortable I've ever felt in middle school. When you're in that circle, nobody's going to ask you to read something that's written in unbreakable code. Maybe Aldo can't come up with any nice things to say, but I'm willing to go with it if it means no reading. I'll even say nice things about Elaine. A couple of 7th graders show up and there's an emotional reunion with Vladimir. I join in for a while, but eventually one of them notices I'm there. You're not in this class, he comments meaningfully. That's right, I reflect with a sigh. I'm not. I shoulder my backpack and head back next door, though it's still early. Kiana crouches in the hall outside SCS 8, a look of intense concentration on her face. What's going on, I ask. Shh. She presses a finger to her lips and points inside the classroom. Mr. Kermit is talking, and at first I think he's chewing someone out. His voice is a lot sharper than his usual half-sleepy drone. Then I hear the reply, tinny and very close. It's coming from the intercom, right on the other side of the door. Principal Vargas. I think you'd be happy to know about this, Zachary, the principal's saying. It's no secret that the sound of the vuvuzelas drives you over the edge. Zachary? Mr. Kermit's name is Zachary. That's not the point, our teacher replies. You've already separated my class from everybody in the building. Maybe you have reasons for that, but you can't exclude them from the activities for Spirit Week. That's punishing them for something they haven't done yet. You loathe Spirit Week, Mrs. Vargas accuses. We're not talking about me, we're talking about my students. As happy as I'd be to ignore the whole thing, I'm their only teacher. Who's going to stick up for them if I don't? Besides me, Kiana pumps a fist and whispered, Go, Ribbit. Think of who we're talking about here, the principal insists. Think about the disruption they're capable of. Now picture them with vuvuzelas in their hands. Let that be my problem, Mr. Kermit says stubbornly. It's not going to be anybody's problem, Mrs. Vargas insists. It's a done deal, Zachary. Your kids are out. We hear a click as the office breaks the connection. On the other side of the door, Mr. Kermit mutters something I can't make out. Did you hear that? Kiana breathes. Mr. Kermit cares about us. I didn't hear anything about caring, I retort. That was all about vuvuzelas, which we're not getting anyway. Weren't you paying attention? He fought for us. I can't figure him out, I complain. He hates vuvuzelas. Why would he want us to have them? So he can kill whoever blows one? She throws up her hands in exasperation. Don't you see? It's not about the noisemakers, it's about fairness. That doesn't make much sense to me. If life was fair, there would be no such thing as the Unteachables in the first place. Chapter 10, Kiana Rubini. Bad news from Utah. The equipment trailer got struck by lightning, so production on my mom's movie had to be shut down for a couple of weeks. Can't I come back home while you guys are waiting to start up again? I asked Mom over Skype. That wouldn't work, she tells me. What about school? How would we pull you out of Greenwich when you just got started? And then re-enroll you once shooting resumes here. That would be disruptive. I have to hold myself back from screaming. There's nothing to disrupt. I don't really go here. Geez Louise, never registered me. I'm not even in a real class. Forget it. Mom would be on the phone to Dad in seconds flat. Never a pleasant combo. I'd be back in that office fast enough to make my head spin. Registering for 8 classes instead of just one. 8 new teachers to get used to who give real assignments and real homework. No, my life here isn't perfect, but it's designed for maximum bearableness. Why get it complicated? I'm a short timer, just not quite as short as I thought. 2 extra weeks in Greenwich, of Dad and Stepmonster, of Chauncey's sniffles and fevers, and rashes and barfs. 2 more weeks of Parmesan House. 2 more weeks of the Unteachables. Fine, I can handle it. I can do 2 more weeks standing on my head. Speaking of school, Mom goes on, how are you fitting in? I went there, back when it was old Greenwich High School. Great, I tell her. I've already gotten picked for this special program. Mom beams. Special? I knew she wouldn't be able to resist the idea of me being exceptional. I plow forward. It's called SCS 8. Really hard to get into. I should know. I'm not even really in it. The teacher's fantastic. He's super hands-off because he wants us to learn to work independently. Mr. Kermit believes... Kermit? She interrupts. You mean the cheating scandal? Cheating scandal? Mom's brow furrows. It was an awfully long time ago, the early 90s, I remember. I was away at college when it happened, but it must have been the same person. Kermit isn't a very common name. I'm intrigued. What did Mr. Kermit do? I don't remember the details, but the whole town was up in arms about it. I'm surprised he's still teaching. It was a horrible black mark against him. Wow, Mr. Kermit has a past. The plot thickens. Mom adds, do you want me to call the school and get to the bottom of this? No, I blurt. I mean, Mr. Kermit's an awesome teacher now, and that's the main thing, right? Who cares about what happened in the 90s? But Kiana, it was a cheating scandal. I don't want you to be mixed up in something like that. Relax, Mom, I assure her. I guarantee that there isn't any cheating going on in SCS 8. I can say that with total confidence because there isn't anything going on, period. Why would we bother to cheat when Mr. Kermit never even looks at the few papers he gets? Eventually, she agrees to let the subject drop. I end the Skype call, my mind racing. Suddenly, I've cracked the mystery that's been nagging at me from the very first moment I followed Parker's schedule into 117. Why would Mr. Kermit want to teach a class like the Unteachables? Answer, he doesn't. He gets a bad class every year because of what happened way back in the 90s. Seems a little crazy that he's still paying for a mistake that he made so long ago, but if Mom remembers, other people do too. Turns out SCS 8 isn't just a dumping ground for the rejects of the school. The reject teachers wind up there too.